You'll get a charge out of this. What's wrong with this picture is next.
Hey, welcome to RVNN's show, What's Wrong with This Picture, with Dennis Gilm, professional photographer who's going to be talking about batteries. Not only the common varieties, but some really smart batteries.
Yeah.
Some really intelligent ones. Kind of like this one right here.
Yeah.
What makes this so smart?
It knows exactly when to run out of juice.
It does.
Yeah.
So
just when you need it to be working, yeah, that's when it knows to run out of juice.
yeah. Well, photography is electronics based in many regards, and so we're highly dependent on batteries.
Right.
And how does a professional photographer approach the management and thinking about batteries? What's the first thing that pops to your mind?
If it can go wrong, it will. And that means if you aren't sure you've got a fresh battery, you better put a fresh one in before you go to that photo shoot. Because if you don't, that's the one that is gonna run out just when you need it the most.
So what was this little cell here used for?
This little guy goes in this DSLR, and I'm not going to pull the drawer out, but there's a little drawer there that you pull out, put this battery in, and slide it back in again.
What makes it so important?
Well, that battery is responsible for remembering the date, the time. It has a number of functions that adds information to the file that you take every time you take a picture. So while you can probably run your camera with it dead, it takes away a lot of the functionality that you'd like to have and a lot of the information you want to record. So it's very important that this get changed. The trouble is, these things don't run out real often.
They might last years.
Yeah, literally they can. But it's sort of like that that smoke detector battery in your house. You know, the admonition that you change it at least once a year and put a fresh one in. I really recommend that you do that with these. They're not that expensive, and they're just a few bucks. And it'll keep you from having that unwanted failure right about the time you need that information.
Right, and if you're traveling in a vacation situation, of course you want to try and capture as much of that as possible. Now you've got a whole variety of batteries decked out here.
Well, the message here, I think, is that whether you're an amateur, hobbyist, whether you're a professional, or photography is just your avocation, you own equipment, and that equipment probably has a battery in it someplace. And that's each one of those batteries is an opportunity to run out at the wrong time.
Right. And
so,
when you say what happens when the battery runs out?
Yeah. Well, the fun is gone. It's dead.
The fun stops. That's right. So a lot of it would be remembering when you leave the hotel or a power source to make sure that you've charged things up.
Yeah. You have any number of chargers that go with your equipment. Your camera comes with one. Now, you got to remember that your camera has a proprietary battery in most cases, which means that you can't buy it at the grocery store or at the drugstore. You need to have the right battery for that particular camera. For example, I've got a couple of cameras here, and they don't use the same batteries.
So even though that just to a casual glance they would appear like you have one on an orange sled, and then there's one that looks very similar to it.
Here are two here. They both run Canon cameras in this case. This one works in the 5D Mark II. This one works in the 20D and a number.
So even the same manufacturer, you can have very different batteries.
So you really need to have chargers for each of these batteries, because the chargers typically will only work on the battery that's for that particular camera.
So what system do you use as you're traveling to keep track of these different batteries, different chargers, different adapters?
Well, you need to become familiar with your equipment to know what they have in the first place. And then the trick, I think, is to try to establish a habit or a routine in which whenever you're going out to shoot anything of any importance, whether it's a vacation or it's it's a special photo shoot with the grandchildren or whatever it happens to be, you'll want to first check before you leave the house, have I got fully charged batteries? Secondly, you want to have more than one for each camera. So while there is one in this camera, here's the backup. And I have them both charged before I leave the house or the studio. And I do that with each of the pieces of equipment that I'm going to shoot that day. If I'm going to use strobes, I make sure that the controls that operate the strobes, for example, the receiver, and in this case the receiver and the trigger that goes on the camera, both of these have batteries in them. And you can see there's
Now, AA batteries are kind of like the lowest common denominator across many of these devices. What do you recommend as far as brand name versus maybe not brand name?
Well, of course, you know, just watch a commercial and you'll find out that there's always one better than the one that you've got. But the fact of the matter is, I found that I can buy off-name batteries in some places where they work for me about as well as the expensive ones. So I don't think
if you buy the highest grade,
yeah,
don't go to the off-brand, most inexpensive. They're kind of risky.
Yeah, but you can get things that aren't as expensive as the top brand names. They seem to function pretty much like the rest of them, and you only have to try one package of them to find out if they're going to last for you. If they do, save the money and buy the little less expensive ones. They're going to work just about the same.
Now, as a professional, you had a lengthy affair with rechargeable batteries, but now you're back on the regular conventional ones. Tell us about that.
That's a personal, judgment call. Actually, when I first got into the business seriously, I decided that these AA's and AAA's were going to cost me an arm and a leg, and I was pretty close to right. So I said, well, it makes sense to spend $10 on 4 rechargeables and then keep recharging them, and it does. The only thing that I discovered is that the number of times you can recharge them is limited, and at some point they're going to stop holding a charge, and you're going to have
the memory problem that occurs with
it's not so much the memory problem. In this case, they just become fatigued and they stop taking a charge. The memory thing we'll talk about in a minute is a little bit different, but the fact is that they will wear out. And so they won't hold a charge at some point. And I finally got tired of throwing them away after I discovered that it wouldn't hold a charge at a photo shoot that was important to me. So I just started carrying regular AA's and AAA's, and I buy a brick of them and take them with me, and it seems to work pretty well. And I don't have that thing about unwanted short life about the time I need it.
Let's talk about memory for a little bit, and then we'll reveal your secret weapon.
Oh, okay. You may have heard that batteries have a memory. These days, not all batteries are dependent upon this memory concept, but you still run into a few now and then. Nickel cadmium batteries were a long time rechargeable batteries.
NiCads.
Yeah, NiCads. And these batteries have been around a long time. They're some of the early rechargeables. The one thing that was wrong with them, if you didn't run the charge all the way down and then recharge them, you found that the life of the charge was shorter and shorter. And so what was happening is the battery was saying, you ran it down only halfway, for example, then you recharged it. The battery said, oh, he only wants to use half of the capacity of this battery, so I'll just recharge it for half the strength.
So you might find those in a proprietary battery pack, whereas the lithium ion or some of the more modern batteries don't have that.
These
problem.
Days we're really fortunate for rechargeable batteries in cameras and stuff like that. Most of them have gone to lithium ion, and they do not have a memory. Nickel metal hydride batteries don't have a a memory either, so you don't have that problem. So you can remember nickel metal hydride is okay. No, it doesn't remember what you charged last time. Nickel cadmium batteries, or NiCads, do have a memory, and sometimes you'd wish they would forget.
Okay. Well, I know you spend a lot of time in camera stores, but you spend a lot of time in hardware stores, and you found something that's pretty interesting, kind of your secret weapon on battery management.
Yeah, no matter how you try to keep track of the batteries that went bad, we'll say you're shooting this this strobe unit here, an on-camera flash, and in here are 4 at least
AA batteries.
AA batteries. So you're shooting and you find out that the flash stops. Well, you know it's the batteries, so you take the batteries out, you throw them in your pocket, you put 4 fresh ones in the flash unit, and you go about your shooting. Now, somewhere along the line, if you are responsible about getting rid of your old batteries, you're not going to just throw them in the trash. You're going to dispose of them properly. Sometimes that's hard to figure out what that process is, but you're going to try. And in any case, sooner or later, some of the used ones that are worn out are bound to get mixed up with the fresh ones.
Right.
And so you've got a pocket full of batteries, and you start to put them in your flash unit, and it doesn't seem to last very long, or it won't work at all, and you wonder why. So what I found is that for about $5, you can buy something like this, which is really just a meter, a battery tester. And if you take your battery and you put it in here, and this one is spring-loaded, it'll hold the battery, and you'll see. You probably can't see it in here, but the needle is run over to the green, which says this one is a good battery, and it'll measure charges for AAAs, AA's. It'll even measure these button batteries in here.
And it says that one's dead.
It says this one is dead. Yeah. Now, wouldn't you like to be traveling with this in your camera bag and find out that when you put it back in the camera, you're in the same shape you were with the one that just ran out?
Right.
So it's a good idea to test your batteries before you take off to make sure you're taking fresh ones.
Excellent.
And this thing will also work for 9 volts. It'll work for just about any kind of normal battery that you're going to be using.
If you have a favorite battery tip that you'd like to pass along, use your Twitter account and use the hashtag 3WTP, as in what's wrong with this picture. And you can send your questions and comments to us here at RVNN TV. Also, don't forget to look for us on Facebook. We're on Twitter. And there is a Pinterest account that has a number of examples that Dennis is able to provide on things we talk about here on the show. Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on What's Wrong with This Picture.
Hey, Gabe, want to go for a walk? Gabe? Gabe? Gabe?
Hey, buddy, you lost? Hold on.
If your pet is the adventuresome type, be sure he's connected to PetHub. A quick scan using any smartphone shares your pet's vital information so that even his wildest escapades have a happy ending. PetHub, reuniting pets with their families.
Come on, Gabe, let's go home.